Hi everyone, welcome to the Movieception Show. My name is Fariba, and today we're about to watch The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 4. And before I get down into it, I know there was a lot of discussion in the last week regarding the last week's episode because, I mean, as I mentioned before in my reaction last week, this was definitely an episode that surprisingly took a huge deviation from the main storyline, which it focused mostly on Dr. Pershing. I mean, personally, I thought it kind of had a bit of that Andor sort of story that, that we saw back last year when we saw Andor. And it definitely gave off those vibes. And I didn't really mind it. As I mentioned in my reaction last week, I thought, because of the fact that they focused so much on Dr. Pershing and on Coruscant, that I would have imagined that this was going to be a very significant part of where the Mandalorian story is going to take in season 3. So I personally didn't have a huge issue with it. I know a lot of people were very very divided on their opinions about last week's episode, but I think that hopefully moving forward, we'll start to see more of a progression of Mando Grogu's story. Heck, even just extending it to Bo-Katan, because now she seems to be very involved this season. So honestly, I hope that we do get a pretty good conclusion out of it. For me, I think that we're kind of having a similar sort of pacing that we had in season 2. The stuff in the beginning was a bit slow. It was taking a bit of the time to really develop its story, to develop the main overarching plot that we have for the season, and then hopefully it would, and I mean, at least in the case of season 2, it did end the season off in a really great note. I'm imagining it's going to be the same situation here. I'm already kind of getting a similar sort of structure of how the season has been. I'm getting a little bit of the season 2 vibes out of it. So I am hoping that by the end of it all, the episodes that we are watching will be worth it. I'm pretty sure Dr. Pershing's storyline has a huge purpose in what's going to happen in the subsequent future. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where the story goes on. I'm going to imagine that moving forward, we're going to continue to see more of Mando and Grogu and Bo-Katan and where the story's going to lead off to, as well as what this could mean for Mandalore. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into episode 4 of The Mandalorian. I love how Bo-Katan is just looking around, observing.
Winner.
I really want to know what she's like. Oh, baby! Oh, baby. Is he training? Is he self-training himself? Oh. 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 Daddy's coming. Oh my god. Of course he's hungry.
Put down the rocks, kid. It's time that you learn with the other foundlings.
Interesting.
Playtime's over. I'm gonna need you to focus.
Aww.
Next challenger.
He's gonna get someone to challenge Grogu. What are you doing?
Winner. To rise from foundling to apprentice, you must learn.
Foundling to
Judge.
apprentice. Okay.
I am his ward. Proceed.
Aww.
What weapon?
Baby.
Let the challenge decide.
Why doesn't he wear a helmet?
He is too young to speak the creed, and so too young to wear a helmet.
Then he's too young to fight.
Oh, you underestimate his
One
powers.
does not speak unless one knows. Is that not the creed?
Well, I know.
Perhaps it's less.
Grogu gonna be taking his first action. Well, it's not really his
Don't
first
worry.
action.
My dad was the same way. He's just proud of you.
Oh wow! If you think about it, this is really interesting. She's like a
You
mommy
take it
to
easy
him.
on him, kid.
You
Squeeze your
got
fist to
this.
launch the darts. You'll be fine.
I love how they're communicating.
He
Oh my
doesn't know
god.
how to fire darts.
He's got this. Trust me.
Oh, baby. Baby, you can do it.
Don't look at me, look at him. Ready. Begin!
He's mixing Jedi and
3 points.
Mandalorian
Winner.
powers.
There you go.
Did you teach him that?
Not me.
The Jedi did. Hey kid, Luke Skywalker.
Unless one knows.
I'm so proud of you, baby.
Great job, kid.
Aww. What?
For the safety of the Foundling.
Aw, Grogu can go with them.
You are too young to join. Come, Grogu. You wish to become a Mandalorian. There is much work to attend to.
Wow, okay. Oh my god, look at the way he's walking! Oh my god! Oh, that's so cute! Is she making him a helmet?
The Forge can reveal weaknesses.
Oh my god! My baby's scared! No freaking way! Oh god. Oh, we're going back. Who saved him? Who saved him? Are we gonna know?
Everything's gonna be all right, kid.
Interesting.
Don't let them escape!
Wow. Oh my god. Oh no.
Don't worry. We're gonna meet up with some friends of mine. But hold on. It's
More
gonna be a bunch of men.
friends.
It is with these scraps of Beskar that I forged your next piece of armor.
Oh my god, he's getting his first armor.
Mandalorian steel shall keep you safe as you grow stronger. You will grow into this rondel as you grow into your station, Foundling Grogu.
Foundling Grogu, aww. Aww.
How do you eat when other people are around?
You don't. When you get your food, you go off to find a place where you can take off your helmet.
Interesting, huh? Interesting. Yo, we haven't seen her without the helmet in like a long time.
We're alerted to our presence. Let's move.
Yo, she's showing herself to be a great leader, and I'm assuming that's gonna imply something. Yo, how is he able to climb with all that equipment on him?
Ragnar!
Oh, hell no.
She's alive!
That is traumatizing.
Take my
just got smacked. Ooh. Ooh, nice. Nice. Oh, dang. But I'm kind of, I don't know. But it had babies, and those babies are gonna die.
Are you okay?
You have done the highest honor of the creed, saving a foundling. This is the way. This is the way.
And we have brought you 3 more foundlings in need of care and training.
Is that so?
Oh, okay. At least they did something with them, because I was a bit like, but they lost. How it's gonna survive?
You're in need of a repair. Come with me.
Ooh.
I can replace.
Would
Okay.
it be acceptable to wear one pauldron of the Night Owl and another with the Mythosaur?
The mythosaur belongs to all Mandalorians. It is always acceptable to wear.
I would like that.
I'm getting mixed vibes from her. What is going on? Like, is she finally going to stick with the old Mandalorians? Old Mandalorian ways?
That you saw what?
Mythosaur.
A Mythosaur.
I would say you are very lucky.
So that was episode 4 of The Mandalorian in season 3. So there's really a lot to unpack for what was a very, very short episode. I mean, it was only technically speaking, it registered as 33 minutes, but I mean, for the most part, it was probably about 25 minutes max. But even then, there's a lot to really dissect with some of the story arcs we've seen in terms of both Grogu and Bo-Katan, which happens to be the main focus of where this episode is. Like, the first half was focused on Grogu, and the second half was more about Bo-Katan and kind of how she's feeling right now. So let's get right down to it, because there's just so much to really dive into. So let's get right down into like the big part, right? That is the Order 66 flashback, because I did not expect that we're going to go straight into the flashback scene this soon. Like, even though we're just about to hit halfway through season 3, like, I still didn't even expect that we're gonna get the flashback scene this soon, just because, like, I thought maybe they just needed far more time to develop that, but they go right down into it. Definitely, like, I mean, as we all kind of seen before in other snippets of Grogu's perspective of what happened on that, you know, traumatizing day, that the most, you know, devastating day for Jedis. Like, I mean, we've known before that so many Jedis were defending and guarding and protecting Grogu that day. This is this flashback kind of goes way more deep into that, showing how there's all these Jedis who are literally, like, protecting him. And so that's something that we've suspected for a long time. I know, but of course the big question was, who was it that really got Grogu out of Coruscant, who really got him to safety? So I definitely was a bit surprised to see that just, like, the person who ended up coming out and, you know, retrieving Grogu was just some, you know, ordinary Jedi that, you know, we haven't met before. But I feel like maybe that could lead to something. So I don't know who that guy is. Maybe, like, he has appeared in some of the, you know, Rebels or something like that, which I haven't seen. If that's the case, then definitely a missed opportunity that I don't know who the person is. But they definitely do show a Jedi who claims him, grabs him, and tries to get him to safety. I wonder if there's going to be more about him, if there hasn't already been a lot, you know, discussed about him. Because, again, I haven't been up to date with Rebels yet, as well as Clone Wars. But even that being the case, like, I think it's pretty clear that Coruscant's going to be a big, big part. Like, as I suspected from last week's episode, the fact that we went back to, like, we really went to Coruscant Like, and that it had Dr. Pershing in it, who, you know, happens to have a, you know, pretty has a kind of established connection to Grogu. Like, now having seen this one, it's pretty set in stone. Like, I think as of this point, like, I think it's a given that we're going to see Grogu somehow return to Coruscant. It's becoming very clear at this point. The fact that this flashback shows him in Coruscant and him leaving as a result of the Order 66 order. Like, I mean, I would imagine that there's going to be at some point that Grogu is going to be coming to Coruscant. I think it's given, it's going to happen. It's inevitable as of this point. I think this episode really just kind of confirmed that, like, asserted that this is going to happen. So for anybody who were, you know, very, you know, like, not happy about what happened last week's episode and the fact that they shifted to Dr. Pershing's perspective and his story, like, I mean, again, the fact that we see this episode, it's giving us a clear indication this is going to happen. There was a reason for that setup, and I think that kind of, I think having that has now allowed, like, someone like me to really just understand, okay, there's far more importance, far more significance to what's happening in the Coruscant story than we would imagine. So I'm going to assume that there's going to be a big part of it. This is leading up to something. The fact that Grogu was even thinking about what happened on that day, like, I mean, I can imagine that he's probably still feeling some part of that guilt, because now he is, technically speaking, now training with the Mandalorians and trying to become a Mandalorian himself. He did, you know, choose that way. So now he's becoming a Foundling and hoping to, you know, climb up to eventually become a Mandalorian from the looks of it. But of course, there's going to be sort of that, you know, that vulnerability that he has. Like even, you know, the armor even says, like, you know, like, this is, like, you, as she was forging his first part of the suit, that there's going to be some sort of vulnerability that he's going to kind of, you know, expose. So definitely a lot to really take that in. Like, again, I did not expect that we're gonna get so much of the flashback. I don't know if that's gonna be it for the flashback. Maybe we'll see a far more deeper visual what happens, just because I feel like there's more to it than what we are seeing now. And so hopefully we'll see more of what happens. Probably in the next episode or a couple episodes after. But that first half, just to see Grogu's side and, like, his perspective of like what happened on Order 66, and, you know, what he's feeling right now, like, that was a really big moment just to see. Like, again, like, it gives me this feeling that we're going to have far more with Grogu's storyline kind of being showcased as we get more and more to episodes. Again, like, right now, what we've been, like, I mean, this episode we saw far more of Grogu again. Like, I mean, just this season itself, like, we're starting to see more of Grogu becoming more, like, getting more of a sense of, like, you know, essentially having more time for himself to really be independent and not always having to be reliant on Mando. Like, we even see in the beginning of, like, the episode that, like, hey, you need to, like, learn how to train, and, you know, you can't just always look at, you know, Mando to kind of, you know, help you out, like, give you the, you know, the spoon feed, everything like that. Like, you gotta learn as you go. And I'm really getting that sense of that as, you know, we get through the first bits of that training sequence and how he does the challenge. Again, we're already seeing him kind of using bits and pieces of his training, of at least what he has trained from that time with Luke, and utilizing that to his advantage to climb up as a Mandalorian. So that's a big part. Again, I wonder if there's going to be a sense where he's going to start really just training himself in terms of the Force as well. Like, we see snippets of it in the beginning, so I wonder again if that's going to lead to something far more than just him training with Mandalorians, but him still continuing off as a Jedi. So lots of questions about that. Like, I wonder where his story is going, because I feel like for his side, like, I think having seen all those trailers, like, his side of the story seems the most ambiguous of, like, where it could be leading up to and where his story is going to end by the time we get to the season 3 finale. So lots of questions about what's going on with Grogu's storyline. Like, I mean, again, it's becoming far more clear that, I mean, for one thing, he is trying to train to become a Mandalorian. Like, he chose the Mandalorian, he chose Mando over training as a Jedi and using his powers for, you know, for what is necessary as a Jedi. And then at the same time, it's like, okay, well, now we also know for a fact that Coruscant's going to be a big part of his storyline, having seen this in last week's episode. So, and even then, like, I don't know where that is leading up to. Like, I'm going to assume that we're going to get this sort of Jedi part of the story coming back, like the way that we saw in the first two episodes, like the first two seasons, where, you know, he needed to be with, you know, with a Jedi who would understand what, you know, needs to be done, how to train him, because that is, you know, that's kind of where his, you know, story originates. Like, he started off like just being a, you know, Jedi trainee at the temple in Coruscant before the Order 66, right? So lots of questions about Grogu. I think, like, again, the fact that we haven't really gotten this, like, specifics of what is really going on, what it's setting up, it's very unusual, but at the same time, it makes me very curious how that's going to end up, you know, how that's going to finish out. And I'm also kind of excited to see what that would lead up to. So again, I'm really, again, lots of great moments of Grogu that we see in this episode. Like, again, some of the best things, like him doing those training scenes, like the challenge, and him, like, in that, and again, when he's inside the pit and with the armor, like, you know, reflecting on, thinking back of, like, what was probably the most traumatic, you know, memory that he has of, you know, he has, you know, had to live through, which was, again, Order 66. Definitely lots of questions about what's going to happen to Grogu. Again, it's so cute seeing Grogu. Like, you can see just how much he's growing, and I really love the Green Fellow. So definitely a great part right there, just to see him becoming a far more important character than just being the damsel in distress that we've seen in the first episodes, or just like this mission that, you know, a part of a mission of trying to get him to meet someone. Like, now we're just seeing him actually growing as a character, and so that's something that I appreciate this season so far. Again, it's becoming clear that this is becoming the case, so love that part of the storyline. Then let's go down into Bo-Katan, because I think she was the other most important character that we see in this episode. Again, once again, going into just how a character is dealing with what they're, you know, trying to understand, especially in Bo-Katan's case, because again, she, like, of course, like, this season, the big part of it is that we're exploring Mandalore, we're exploring sort of different teachings, the philosophies, and now we're sensing from Bo-Katan's perspective what's really going on. Like, the fact that, technically speaking, because she's also been, you know, cleansed from, like, 2 episodes ago, like, you know, for her, it's like, okay, now she's, technically speaking, you know, not a you know, apostate anymore. She's now she's now, you know, able to follow along in the old Mandalorian ways, which is with the creed. So definitely interesting. Again, I already had a suspicion that there's already this conflict that's kind of, you know, coming under her, like, for a while, since, like, 2 episodes ago when she saw the mythosaur. Like, she's really kind of feeling mixed about a lot of things that she's dealing with. Again, it's really hard to sense what she is dealing with because she does have a mask on, but like, you can get the sense of, oh, like, she is feeling, like, really conflicted with what to do. Like, she doesn't know if she wants to stick, you know, maybe there is, you know, a purpose of the old Mandalorian. Maybe they shouldn't have done things like, you know, gone with the new sort of way of, you know, living the man as a Mandalorian, or should she, you know, stick as, like, you know, her, you know, usual ways where she was, like, following the new Mandalorian teachings, and which is, like, you know, far more progressive, not as, you know, conservatives or traditional as, you know, the old Mandalorian way. So definitely getting, like, a sense of this mixed feeling with her. Like, she is feeling this confliction about it, and that's definitely, I think that's kind of becoming a far more apparent thing as we're getting into Bo-Katan's story. We see that again here in the second part of the episode, where again, like, she's literally asking questions like, hey, like, I've seen the mythosaur, what does this mean? Like, I like, you can get the sense of like this kind of this shock that she had, and now she's trying to take in all that she's had. Like, what does this mean? Like, I can really get the sense of Bo-Katan is just really trying to understand where her purpose is lying, what does this mean in terms of her position. Again, lots of questions about her as well, knowing that, like, for Bo-Katan, to something like, she had this really big shock that she just, you know, dealt with a couple episodes ago, and see again in this episode, where she's just trying to understand, like, where does this lead up to? What is the meaning of this? What does this imply about her as a Mandalorian? Like, lots of questions about it as well. Like, it seems as if the more and more she's staying, the more and more like she might be sticking with the creed from the looks of it. Like, it's like the fact that she hasn't even taken off her mask for like, not mask, her helmet for this quite this long. Like, it's giving me this vibe that like maybe she is going to stick with the creed. Like, maybe she is going to, like, I think maybe for her, she's feeling far more comfortable in the creed ways, like in the old Mandalorian, philosophy. It sounds as if like maybe she might stick around far longer than we would anticipate. So definitely lots of questions about that, what this could lead up to. Again, like what we've seen so far in terms of the Mandalorian, like we don't really, it doesn't seem as if they've been giving us this definitive sort of journey for the characters as of yet, but there's this implication of like what is really kind of this underlying sort of like the stress that they're dealing with, like or what they're like, what they are dealing with overall. Like, I think that's going to be a very big question going into the second half of the season, because again, like from what we've seen so far, it seems that like for me, I thought that we're going to really tackle the whole Mandalorian lore and this whole potential conflict between the old and new Mandalorian ways. And now it's like, okay, with everything that's going on with Bo-Katan and the fact that she is still currently with the creed, and it doesn't seem as if there's been any sort of issue between her and Mando or any of the other creed members, that like what does this, like where is Bo-Katan's story leading up to, what is it setting up? Lots of really questions about that as well. And again, I wonder where that's going to lead up to. Like, I mean, for this one, it was really interesting to see that she was showing her leadership position, the fact that she was able to use her skill sets and her experiences to find the kid and save it. That was a big thing. And we even see in the episode where like everyone was just so impressed by her performance that she is now becoming far more welcomed into the creed than she would have imagined. Again, like lots of this, like, okay, well, it like the question of is she going to stick with the creed is going to be the big number one question. And what will this lead up to? One of the things I've been surprised about so far is that it's a little story arc that we've seen so far of Mando. Because, like, honestly speaking, like, as I said before, like, the fact that we went straight into Mando's, apostasy, and the fact that he was able to, resolve it in just about basically episode 2, that was a big shocker. Like, I definitely thought that it was pretty quick how that whole thing was resolved. And since then, we haven't really seen much of Mando's story, like what he's dealing with, what's leading up to. Nothing really, like the fact that we haven't really seen what's going on with Mando, like it's just like he's just kind of more of the side character now than as the main character, even though the show is called The Mandalorian. Like that is probably where I'm kind of feeling, I feel like it's the one thing that I'm just like really confused with, because again, this is a show about the Mandalorian. I mean, then again, the Mandalorian's a whole group of people, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be Mando. But I think from what we've been through with the whole show, and now that we're in season 3, like you would think that the Mandalorian that we're talking about is Din Djarin, right? So the fact that we didn't really see much of Din's storyline in this episode, he was more so the side character in today's episode than ever before. Again, just kind of assisting in their mission to save the Foundling that was taken. But there hasn't really been anything that's been kind of sparking his next journey or his next sort of conflict or any of that sort of thing. Like, it just seems as if he's just kind of a bystander, and I'm just wondering, like, is his story going to lead up to something, or is he just going to stick like that as a side character than being a main character? So that's the only thing that's kind of like having lots of like a deep dividedness of, just because I'm just like, okay, where are we dealing with Mando? Because like we had this, we thought we were gonna have this, and all that's already been done with. Where does this take Mando moving forward? So interesting about that. Again, this episode, like we barely see Mando aside from just like doing the mission part. It's mostly Grogu and Bo-Katan. But I hope maybe by the next episode we get to see more of Mando and where his storyline will lead up to. Like again, it just seems as if he's just going to be training Grogu because he is sort of his ward. So that's going to be interesting part. Again, like, I wonder there's going to be something far more substantial for Mando's story that I hope will end up happening. Because again, it's a bit surprising how much of a side character he has been in the last 2 episodes. But yeah, I think that's just about it, because again, like, I think as of right now, like, I don't know where the direction of the show is going as of the moment, because they've already resolved a lot of things like early on, and now they're just building that, they're like kind of setting up new stories that, you know, I don't really get the clear indication where the directions are going. I'm still hoping, I'm still thinking that we're going to have Moff Gideon this season somehow, from the looks of it, like from last episode, like the fact that that officer was there, the fact that we got to see Dr. Pershing, we saw what happened at the end of the episode, we kind of get this implication that there are still some Moff Gideon followers out there who are going to try and, you know, I guess you can say get vengeance, or at least somehow help him out to get out. Like, I mean, I wonder if that's going to still happen. Like, I feel like that might end up happening by the end of it. Like, I feel like because Moff Gideon was the antagonist of this series, that like now that he's not in the picture, it's I'm not really getting a sense of the direction where the show is going as of the moment. Again, like the fact that I thought Bo-Katan was going to be the villain, and it doesn't seem like as if she is the villain, because like it seems as if she's actually having far more expanded storyline. Again, it gives me this idea that, okay, we don't know where the story is heading to. There's something far more important that, you know, the show is trying to apply. I'm just not getting the picture out of it. So maybe by the next episode, we're going to start seeing a far better or clear picture of what's going on and what this season is trying to lead up to. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll see more of that. I don't have really any grudges about, you know, what we've seen so far, because again, I think that what we're seeing, I think, as I said before earlier in this, you know, as I said earlier today, that what we are seeing right now, just kind of the pacing, the progression of this season, is giving me the vibes of what happened in season 2. Season 2 started off pretty slow. It was setting up the exposition of things, and that's kind of what the sense I'm getting with this season. Now that we're kind of already hitting the halfway mark, like, it is kind of extending far more on the exposition of things, which, like, it might be taking a bit too long, but maybe, who knows, maybe it will pay off by the end of the season, because again, it seems as if we're kind of taking a far different storyline. Like, the first season was setting up what was season 2, but it seems like season 3 is like setting up its whole new journey, whole new direction of things, and so I'm going to assume that that's going to be the same case. That's what we're getting the sense of here. Like, that's probably why they're taking such a long time setting up the exposition for this show or for the season. And I think that's what's basically the case of what we're seeing right now, is that because we already resolved a big part of the storyline that we saw in season 1 kind of be resolved in season 2, that now season 3 is just setting up a whole new storyline that, you know, that requires taking far more time to develop, which I'm totally okay with. I think that's fine with me. Like, again, if it can lead up to a very good storyline where by the end of it pays off, that's really fine with me. So I think that's kind of what's happening right here. Like, again, we got far more of a deeper exposition of deeper storyline of what's going on Grogu and Bo-Katan, what they're feeling, what they're thinking. Again, I feel like in their sense, like, I'm getting a far better idea what's going on, although I'm still not understanding where that story will lead up to. Mando, again, I'm a bit surprised that we haven't seen much of him in a while. Hopefully by next episode, we'll see more of how he's involved in season 3. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed with that. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this episode. I think it's a decent addition. Nothing to, you know, like, I mean, there are some parts where it does feel a bit filtery, but at the same time, like, there are some really important things to really just kind of take in terms of the character development that we've seen so far. I think this episode is very, very important in terms of the character development for Grogu and Bo-Katan, which I will at least applaud for. So that's all I have to say about this episode. I think it's a pretty decent one. Lots of really cute moments, some really good action sequences as well. Lots of really big developments for Grogu and Bo-Katan. I feel like that's kind of the strongest point of this episode, which I haven't seen something as, you know, in terms of their character development be, you know, be taken this, you know, this deep in as I've seen before in any other episode for The Mandalorian. So maybe it will pay off, as I said before. But yeah, I think overall it's a really solid addition. I'm not saying that so far this is a great season as of yet. I think there's just more to it that maybe by episodes 5, 6, or 7, we might see a change. We might see a change of that, shift in sort of the pacing and the tone and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this episode. Let me know what your thoughts are. What do you think about what we've seen so far? How do you think about this episode in comparison to the last one? Did you enjoy it more? Did you not? What do you think about the flashback thing that we just saw? Do you think that that's about it? Or do you think we're going to have more to that storyline and maybe there might be far, deeper connections that we probably aren't thinking about? And if so, what are your theories about it? What do you think about Grogu's story so far? What do you think this is leading up to? Do you agree that we're going to be basically going back to Coruscant at some point of this season? How is last episode and this episode setting up sort of the Coruscant sort of storyline that it's being implied here? And again, are we going to see more of the Order 66 flashback? And in terms of Bo-Katan, what do you think about Bo-Katan's storyline so far? Like, are you already sensing this confliction that she is dealing with? Do you think that she's about to accept the Creed way, or maybe it's far more nuanced? And then what do you think about Mando so far? Like, he hasn't really been showing up the last few episodes. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments down below and make sure to like and subscribe.